This year's Monster Pods are brought to you by the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge and our friends over at twinspires.com. The KDBC is back this year with a guaranteed $250,000 purse. Head over to twinspires.com today, click the Tournaments tab, and get all the information you need on how to buy in or qualify for horse racing's newest major tournament. The Kentucky Derby Monster Pods continue on the In the Money Media YouTube channel with one of our most popular guests. You know him from his appearances here and for the fantastic work he does at his own site, which we'll tell you a little bit more about later in the show, dukespicks.com. Duke Matties, how are things, my friend?
Pete, everything's good except for Keeneland and getting my butt kicked.
You and me both. You and me both. There was blood on the tracks on Saturday, that's for sure. But it's just a bump on the road. We're going to get it on the rails there, and we're going to keep that train rolling all the way into the station that is the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday in May. A macro question for you. First, what do you think of this group of 3-year-olds in general?
I think this year we're limited to about maybe 5 horses that can win the race. I think there's a lot of tosses, which hasn't been the last few years. Last few years, it's been really wide open, and you didn't know who to play, but because they were all so evenly matched. This time, I think you got some mismatched horses. I think horses that ran in the wood are not very good. The horses that ran behind Further Ado were not very good at all, and in the bluegrass. So I think you got, just the horses in the Florida Derby, the winner of the Arkansas Derby, and there's not a lot else out there.
We'll talk with you about your thoughts on the Santa Anita runners in another video. But since we're here to talk about Renegade, I'll ask you what I think is the key question for many. And this has been a talking point the last few years, and one that I have not taken super seriously. But Todd Pletcher's record in the Kentucky Derby. He's run 65 starters. He's got 2 winners, which is a lot more than most people can say, with Super Saver and Always Dreaming. 2 horses ran second, Invisible Ink and Bluegrass Cat. 3 thirds, Impeachment, Revolutionary, Danza, actually 4 thirds, Danza and Audible all ran there. But that's still, even in the money terms, I mean, this is Todd Pletcher. You expect him to finish in the money more than 12% of the time. And obviously, if it was just a race on Thursday, you expect his win rate to be a lot higher. Is this signal or noise in the Todd Pletcher stats for the Derby?
No, I mean, Todd has had a horrible run in the Derby. Really, when you really break it down, it's not good. His only 2 wins, are Super Saver and Always Dreaming. They're both on sloppy racetracks.
Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't actually won one on a fast track, which we probably won't see again because the Derby's always wet. But he hasn't taken the route that he took this year. He's taking with Renegade. He went from Tampa to the Arkansas Derby. He hasn't really done that in a while, and he did do that with Super Saver. So even though Super Saver ran in the Tampa Bay Derby and Renegade ran in the Sam Davis, that's just a modern way of training. He wanted more time between these races than he did in 2010. They just train differently now. So I think it's a very similar route. He had success with that. I think he likes the space that he's got between this horse's races, and this horse, I mean, really has an amazing turn of foot. So, with this one, it's 2 for 65, but this one, I think this one kind of upgrades a little bit. But, Danza was a horse that he won the Arkansas Derby with and ran 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. Actually ran a pretty good 3rd in 2014. I think that might have been behind the hat I'm wearing. I think that was behind California Chrome. Didn't play in that, but yeah. But anyway, that was a solid effort, and that horse did, win the Arkansas Derby. So maybe the Arkansas Derby is the way that Todd needs to go. Maybe it's why he did what he did with Renegade too. Maybe he planned it a little bit like that.
It sounds like, while you're concerned about the stat, it's not something that's going to keep you off betting a horse like Renegade. But the other thing you have to consider, we've seen this happen just in the last week, he's really hardened at the top of the market as a solid 7-2 international favorite. No doubt the tipping point for that was the news of Urad Ortiz turning up here, which feels to me more like signal than politics, if you follow where I'm going with that statement. For you, who generally are not somebody who's making bets based on jockeys, except maybe in so how they affect race design, how much does it mean to you that Irad lands here?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't totally surprised, but, he did have to make a pretty big decision. I actually, was asking people, like, what they thought of it and, why would he go that way? Like Pratt choosing emerging market over commandment. I thought, if is that really true? I mean, I don't even know if that's a
It is true, and sort of what I was implying with the way I said it about Erad. I do think politics are in play there. Can you imagine a certain trainer who might be punitive if you chose someone else's horse in the
it's
Derby?
so
I don't know that happened, but it would
right.
not shock me. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's so strange because he's totally gone to Brad Cox, right? So Irad is gone, like, to ride first call for Brad Cox. He's left New York to go, to him, and it's kind of strange because he could have ridden Further Ado, and Further Ado won the Bluegrass by a country mile and ran the highest figure of all the horses that are coming into the Derby. So I thought it was a little strange that he went with Pletcher over Cox, but he's got to think there's more upside with Renegade than he does with Further Ado, or he just thinks Further Ado loves Keeneland. Those are all tricky little things. Maybe he doesn't think Further Ado wants a mile and a quarter, which I think I sort of agree with him. So there's a lot of little things there that are, tricky, but I don't generally go off, who jockeys pick and who jockey agents pick, because I'm not sure they're better handicappers than I am.
At the end of the day, we're all just making our best guesses here, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk about Renegade the horse. When did he become on your radar as a possible Derby type of horse? I do remember he was well hyped ahead of that debut run. Remember that maiden race that
Yes.
It's Our Time won, that at the time we were all told, oh, this is one of Todd's best. This is one of Chad's best. There was all that kind of buzz about that race. That didn't really work out that way exactly, but subsequently, Renegade's done a lot for the form. When did he really come on your radar as a Derby possible?
Well, I watched that race at Saratoga this morning to try to, see what happened in there. He was down on the rail and he was actually close to the pace. He was a lot closer than I thought. I didn't realize he was only about a length or two from the leaders, but he was right on the rail. I believe that day the rail was not very good at Saratoga. If you remember, It's Our Time was in about the 3-4 pass stalking and drew off in the middle of the racetrack, and Renegade was stuck down on the rail. I just don't think he was comfortable down there for his first start. He had a one hole and that. Then he ran, in a maiden special weight against Paladin and ran, he won, but he got DQ'd. I can't remember what the circumstance was. That was a really weird DQ. He didn't really do anything, did he, in that race?
It was there was contact that could have gone either way. I'm sure they
Yeah.
felt hard done. If you backed Renegade, you would have felt hard done.
Yeah, I didn't understand that DQ. That's for another story. But then he ran right back in the Remsen, and he moved early. He moved early against Paladin, and Paladin sat and ran by him. So again, I thought he ran a really good race to battle back in there. So when he came back in the Sam Davis, I did expect good things, and he was working like unbelievable. If you watch workouts, his workmate is Courting's had some tough luck. I mean, I know he costs like $4 million, but Courting is a nice. He's going to be a nice horse, and he should be, obviously. But that's his workmate, and Renegade outworks him almost all the time. So when you watch those workouts and you thought good things about Courting, you really thought Renegade was solid. But I didn't think he was as good as he was, because he got no pace in the Sam Davis and still won very easily, earning like a 96 Beyer first race as a 3-year-old. That really made me think, okay, well, he's something. And then the Arkansas Derby, he got in trouble early in the race. If you watch the Arkansas Derby, he got shuffled back to last and made this ridiculously wide move in the middle of the track. And there really wasn't a lot of pace in that race. I mean, it wasn't slow, but it just wasn't like fast, like he got a setup or anything.
Right.
He did not get a setup. So I'm not surprised Irad took him. You know, I think they got the right spaces, like I said, in between for the modern training thing for the, coming the 5 weeks into the Derby, and he just looks like the horse to beat. Now I don't know about 7-2. 7-2 is way too short in the Derby for a horse like this, especially for a guy that has a 2 for 65 record. And he's blown up horses like Fierceness in the Derby. Over Analyze comes to mind. There's Tapatrice, Mo Donegal, horses like that I thought should have won the Derby that didn't run very well at all. That's very disconcerting.
When you talk about turn of foot, one of the things you do over at dukespicks.com, it's not just a pick site. There are picks, but there's this educational aspect as well. And when you talk about turn of foot, how's that something that you assess? I mean, you can kind of see it in Renegade's running lines just from, you see a horse that goes from 7th to 3rd in a call, goes from 6th to 1st in a call. You can sort of infer that there's turn of foot there, but I have a feeling you're looking at something more sophisticated. For somebody looking to identify what turn of foot looks like, especially in a dirt horse, we hear that on the turf all the time, hear it less on the dirt. What would you tell people to have a look at?
It's difficult unless you do speed figure, pace speed figures. So our site makes it a lot easier because we calculate pace figures every quarter mile. So when I look at Renegade, I love what I call his it's his upline. Like we call it like an upline. He goes from around a 0 to the quarter to around 20 or 30 for the half to around 60 for 6 furlongs to around 90 for a mile. But he then hits higher numbers from the mile on.
Mm-hmm.
He goes 90 to 102. That's a turn of foot, right? Because he's sustaining his run every 2 furlongs. He's getting faster. That's hard to do.
And doesn't that sound like a horse that might relish the 1.25 miles critically to today's
He's
question?
not going to have a problem with the 1.25 miles. That won't be the factor. The factor will be is if he's reached his peak in the Todd Pletcher barn, which that's the only worry, I think, is that if he didn't peak out in the Arkansas Derby, he's going to be 1, 2, 3 in this Derby because there's just not enough out there. And there's just, when I think of contenders for this race, I think of Commandment. He's probably the second choice. I don't particularly like Further Ado, but he's still a contender. And
you run a 106, yeah, you're a contender, right?
I can't come up with too much else. I mean, the Mod Horse fizzled in the Florida Derby. I don't know. Chief Wallaby. I don't know what to think of him because
I think he'll move forward personally, just because that's Mott training too. He's not as worried about winning these individual races. Now, granted, not winning that race might keep him out of the race. Right now, he's on the bubble, but he'll get in. And just because it's Mott, I feel like he's supposed to move forward. Talking about Mott with you does make me remember one of your previous Monster Pod appearances where you put in a confident shout for Country House a few years ago. Yeah. Blew up the tote board for us.
That's probably my last big win.
He's
actually
humble. You're being
actually modest. on this Monster Pod, I've done pretty well. I think I had a horse that didn't get in the Derby one year that won the Preakness. I can't think of the horse's name, but I think the horse got excluded from the Derby, didn't have enough points, and I picked him to win the Derby, and he won the Preakness. So
that's you get at least half credit for that. Baeza last year ended up being a very good horse, obviously.
Yeah, so these Derbies are tough. There are 20 horses all coming from different racetracks. I mean, I'm interested in seeing some of these how these horses are working. I want to see how the horse is working that won the race at Turfway. That could be an interesting thing if that horse works well on dirt.
Full effort? Is that full
effort? Yeah. He got a decent figure for a poly race. I don't usually put too much emphasis on those, but he's got some dirt breeding in there. We'll see how he's training at Churchill.
All right, we're out of time here. That's the bad news. The good news is, folks who want more, we're going to have loads of it coming for you here on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. We got our big push, 15,000 by the Derby. I know most of you are not subscribed. Help us out and do that. And then the other good news is Duke is going to be doing a Derby live stream and he's talking about this proprietary work that he does, his workout analysis, his figures. This is all stuff you're going to be able to hear his real-time thoughts on, and that sounds like I'm going to be lucky enough to join him on that show. Go to
Yeah,
dukespicks.com.
I hope you can do it, Pete. Dukespicks.com. Go there, check it out. The VIP thing is tremendous. So, and we're going to do that live stream for the Derby, so that's going to be huge. I'm going to have my brother Paul on, which is going to be first time ever. Paul and me on the same thing. So it'll be really, really good.
That's going to be very, very fun. Use ITM10 as a discount code. That'll help you out over there. We encourage you to check it out for sure. And we encourage you also put in an extra plug for our friends over at twinspires.com and the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge, horse racing's latest major. See what they have going for you over at twinspires.com.